Hello, after school educators. My name is Mary Schone, and I am currently a school counselor, but am a former camp counselor and camp director. Today, I'm going to be sharing a presentation with you on the topic of celebrations and transitions at the end of the year or to a different program and how to make those meaningful. This is part two of a two-part training on celebrations and transitions. So the objectives of this two-part training are to identify why and how to celebrate the end of year or summer session. That was an objective that was met in the previous training and focused on the bigger picture, including other stakeholders. In this training, we're going to focus on the students and identifying transition activities to help students shift from one year or program to the next, and any adjustments to these activities that may need to happen this year due to physical distancing. And notice that I use the word physical distancing instead of social distancing to emphasize the fact that we may be separated by 3 or 6 feet, but we can still socialize and try to engage socially with others. So, why are goodbyes important? I'd like you to take a second and think about goodbyes that you have had in your life, any changes or transitions that you have had. Maybe that may be a breakup or a change from one house to another, a transition in terms of a graduation that might be from high school or middle school or college that you have experienced. And think about all the feelings that you had during that change and the thoughts that were running through your mind. And our students have the same thoughts and feelings about changing, and we want to support them to have a transition that provides closure to their program and to their year and models how to say goodbye appropriately. Maybe there have been times in our own lives or in the lives of our students when they weren't able to have closure, when they weren't able to say goodbye. And in this way, we can help them with modeling what it looks like to say goodbye and to move on from something. Also helps with the transition. Many of our students may be transitioning from one grade to the next, from one school to the next, and we want to support them with that. If we focus on goodbyes and thinking about the transition and make it planful, this can also decrease behavioral problems. Just while I'm recording this actual session for you all today, it is just 3 days from the end of our school year, and I can tell you that there have, been changes and behavioral challenges for my students in elementary school as we approach the end of the year, and a lot of that can have to do with the difficulty that students have expressing all the variety of feelings and thoughts that they have about changing and going from their school year to the summer or from one teacher to a different teacher, and that fear of the unknown. Also, saying goodbye can help us with our social emotional learning, labeling those feelings. We might feel excitement, we might feel fear, we might feel nervous about the next phase of our lives, and these are all important feelings to acknowledge and to help students acknowledge. So let's dig in a little bit deeper to those common feelings. Again, I'd like you to think about transitions or changes that you may have experienced and those feelings that come along with it, and for those of our students as well. There may be some sadness that something is ending, about the people that we won't see in the same capacity, anger that it's over and there's not much control over the ending of a school year or the ending of a program, confusion about, again, what feelings are appropriate, how to express them, and confusion about having mixed feelings. Maybe there's sadness and anger, and that results in confusion. How can we be sad and angry at the same time, a student may be thinking? disorientation. So again, that goes along with confusion and just not really being comfortable with where the student is at. There can also be excitement on the other end of the spectrum as well, or combined with these other feelings, excitement about something new or about the changes that are coming. Fear, we've already discussed that one, and distress as well, especially for students who may have experienced a lot of goodbyes or transitions. There can be a lot of distress around a change. And grief. I can't underscore it enough that any change could be a loss for students and for adults. So we want to look closely at these common feelings and try to help our students identify when they might be expressing them. Given all of the different variety of feelings that may be happening during a transition at the end of the year, even though we may be celebrating the end of the year, it's important to be mindful and come to the present moment to identify those feelings and then help our bodies to find calm. So I'd like for you to join in with me now, because it is the end of the year as I'm recording this, and do a little bit of this calming mindfulness that we might expect of our students. I don't know about you, but after taking a moment to be in the present and to take some deep breaths, I, for one, feel in a lot calmer spot than before we did that. So, with your students, you can always have some mindful moments. You could do that and maybe should do it at the beginning of every time that you're with the students, but also in reaction to discussions or conversations about changes to really help students find that place of calmness despite all of the changes. We also want to give language for goodbyes, for transitions, and for our celebrations. So we can talk about loss and sadness and really model for our students saying goodbye and give them concrete role modeling or opportunities to practice using this language like goodbye, I will miss you, and thinking about the future. What are you going to be doing this summer? What are you going to plan to do next year? And talking about the future and our feelings and what we're experiencing at the moment. Something else that comes up often when we're thinking about transitions is a celebration, a party. We talked about that in the previous presentation in part one of this training. And there might be opportunities for a family day or for some type of exposition of what you've learned and done throughout the whole year. But also, we want to discuss transitions before that. So you could plan them months before and include the children and the youth in the planning for the celebration and planning for the change. You should talk about it weeks before it happens and start to discuss the variety of feelings that might come up, how to say goodbye, how to culminate their experience with your program in that year. You may be noticing behavior changes during times of transition, whether it's discussed or not. So we might as well start to discuss it proactively before the behaviors change when the students are sensing that transition. Especially this year, we want to make sure to be really planful about our transitions and our celebrations and acknowledging the variety of feelings that come up. Think about your own level of closure with this year, given what happened last year. I know there was a lot of school-based shutdowns and even programs that had to change the way they were delivering their services. Maybe it became virtual instead of in person, and there wasn't a lot of opportunity for closure, for modeling of how to say goodbye, for celebrations to end the year. So that leaves a sense of uneasiness with changes that can occur. So this year, we want to make sure to go through all of those steps of supporting students with a transition and a change. Think about your own thoughts and feelings as we transition from last year to this year and we're ending this year, and what you think the students might be feeling and experiencing as well. That will all help you to plan your celebration, your culmination, and your transition from to the end of this year to your summer program, or from a summer program into the school year. So in my experience as a camp counselor and camp director, we would use mementos to really physically symbolize the transition. It might look like a friendship bracelet that students work on and give out to other kids that have been a meaningful part of their experience. At my summer camp, we give out friendship feathers. So the last day of camp, students can give a friendship feather to another student or kid who has really helped them throughout their time. And in my world as a counselor, we give symbolic meaning to small objects that students can bring with them physically to remind them of all that they've learned and gained during our time together. During COVID-19, there are some challenges with having mementos or physical representations, but there are several opportunities that you can do with memory books or photo books that could even be digital to help give students something physical to hold on to represent their time, but that is also safe. In addition to something tangible, we want to think about rituals for transitions and celebrations and changes. So maybe students could bring in or get from your program something that can be exchanged. When it's exchanged, they can share something that they've learned or will miss. So again, that could be along with friendship strings or a certain bead or a certain color to represent what they've learned and how they've grown. During COVID, I was actually working after school with a group of students who were playing frisbee, and the state shut down during our time that we were forming our team. So, as a culmination of our year, we recorded this short video, which was very safe given the times, but could represent what we were trying to do as a team despite the change due to COVID. Can enslave me? Ain't no man, a man that can change the shape my soul is in. I hope you like that example of something that could be recorded by individuals and then put together to still emphasize the connectedness of a community, of an after school program, of a summer program, despite physical distancing. In my after school program that I run this year, that involves girls who are working towards running a 5K. We did something similar at the end on our last day of practice. Each girl recorded what they learned and took away from the program so that we could incorporate that into a final video. Students can similarly have a culminating project to display what they've learned and how they've grown to stakeholders. That could be in a form of a presentation, a video, a newsletter, a piece of artwork. And really, they can take ownership over what type of project it is and the timeline for it. Again, with my girls' after school group, they decided to do a community service project to support a local animal shelter. So that helped us culminate our year and show all that we've learned working together. Writing letters was my favorite way to end a session when I was a summer camp counselor. It gives kids time to reflect, and I would have them write a short little letter or note to each other kid in the cabin and put those together in an envelope that they could then read after they left our camp. So it was a way for them to reflect, to acknowledge each person in their group, and to think about their time together even when they weren't when they were no longer at camp. During this time of physical distancing and more precautions, these letters, or warm fuzzies as I like to call them, could be read aloud, they could be emailed, or they could be sent via snail mail. I hope that these tidbits of information were useful for you in thinking about how to celebrate and end a program or a session with your students and make it really planful and supportive of their social emotional development. Don't forget to check out Connecticut After School Network on Facebook, on Twitter, and check out our Pinterest boards. Thank you so much for listening.